You want to come up? Come here. Do you want to be in the video this week? Do you want to say hi? Want to say hi? You got an eye booger. Say hi. Junie. You could sit right here. Do you want to sit on my desk? Please don't step on the paint. Oh, you're going to... Okay. Goodbye. Thanks for visiting. So, week 8 already. Yeah, I guess they're right. I guess time flies. As I'm filming this week's video, I'm already starting my next chapter, which means 2/3 of the way through, and I'm definitely singing a different tune than I was when I started. I don't know what it is that I go into things with. I don't want to say a negative attitude, but certainly somewhat pessimistic or apprehensive. But I've been happily proven wrong. Week 8's theme is called Recovering a Sense of Strength. This week tackles another major creative block, time. You will explore the ways in which you have used your perceptions of time to preclude taking creative risks. You will identify immediate and practical changes you can make in your current life. You will excavate the early conditioning that may have encouraged you to settle for far less than you desire creatively. Survival. One of the most difficult tasks an artist must face is the primal one, artistic survival. All artists must learn the art of surviving loss. Loss of hope, loss of face, loss of money, loss of self. In addition to our many gains, we inevitably suffer these losses in an artistic career. They are the hazards of the road, and in many ways, it's signposts. Artistic losses can be turned into artistic gains and strength, but not in the isolation of the beleaguered artist's brain. I've said it once, I've said it 10 times. As mental health experts are quick to point out, in order to move through loss and beyond it, we must acknowledge it and share it. I've kind of been a broken record the last few weeks, just repeating that similar sentiment, so it feels full circle to be coming to it on this chapter. In a way, I feel better because I found that I was already familiar with quite a bit of the sentiments and ideas in this workbook. And so it makes me feel like maybe I'm not as far behind or I haven't missed out on as much time as I kind of thought I did before, since maybe I wasn't practicing them to the fullest extent, but at least I already had an idea of them in the back of my mind and they were present here and there. Perhaps the most damaging form of the artistic loss has to do with criticism. Well, survival is its own section, criticism is not, but I feel like it deserves its own section, specifically because of this passage. Perhaps the most damaging form of artistic loss has to do with criticism. The artist within, like the child within, is seldom hurt by truth. I will say again that much true criticism liberates the artist it is aimed at. We are childlike, not childish. Aha is often the accompanying inner sound when a well-placed, accurate, critical arrow makes its mark. The artist thinks, yes, I can see that, that's right, I can change that. The criticism that damages an artist is the criticism, well-intentioned or ill, that contains no saving kernel of truth, yet has a certain damning plausibility, or an unassailable blanket judgment that cannot be rationally refuted. I think the best example is, if you haven't heard before, don't make comments about other people if it's not something that they could change in the next minute or 30 seconds. So, for example, if they have something in their teeth, sure, point it out. But if you're like, oh, you have a big fat zit on your face, hey, maybe don't point that out. I'll get into this more because it keeps coming up in this chapter, but I found time and time again when I was in critiques in school, because as I mentioned, I got a bachelor's in fine arts. I went to an arts university. Um, and critiques were like a pretty regular thing. We did them at least once every 3 weeks or so in any of the studio classes. A studio class is where you're sitting down and for anywhere between 3 to 6 hours, you're just physically making a certain medium, whether it was dedicated to printmaking, painting, metalsmithing, ceramics, you name it. This is a period where you are working on a project over the course of several weeks, and then every month or so, you get together in your class and you spend the entire day critiquing each other's work. Sometimes you had a similar assignment, you were supposed to be using the same materials, you were supposed to be chasing the same goal, and sometimes it was a little bit more loose than that, so the critique could be more overarching. However, time and time again, there's this like running joke in the art community, if you went to art school, that critiques fall flat. People say the same things time and time again in these critiques, and what you hear the most is, 1, I always heard this one, "What if it was bigger?" 2, "It's interesting," and 3, something as, like, menial as, "Oh, I like the color." They were either really surface level comments so that the other folks in class just got their participation, or honestly, they were more often than not coming from a place of, "Well, if I made this artwork, this is what I would have made," and it's not helping you. Fortunately, I did take classes and have other people around me. I've even gone to, like, just group critiques in, like, the city and found other community, but in those, more beneficial comments are things like, "Oh, the way that you did this reminds me of so and so. Have you referenced that work? Have you looked at that work? Have you found this tool that I'm familiar with? Maybe it would be beneficial to you. Maybe it would help give you further influence." Things like that that are, like, actually related to what you're making and not just telling you how you should have done it differently, how you should have done it how they wanted it. Well, like any human being, I am a victim to criticism all the time. I built up a real callous about criticism because I just got so many, not even negative critiques, they were just kind of useless. We move into what's called the ivory power. Similar sentiment. Devoted as they are to the scholarly appreciation of art, most academics find the beast intimidating when viewed firsthand. Creative writing programs tend to be regarded with justified suspicion. Those people aren't studying creativity, they're actually practicing it. Who knows where this could lead? Then Julia Cameron mentions some more experience she has on both a student and a teaching aspect of this. I personally am not meant to be a teacher. It is not my skill. I do not have it in me to start someone from the very beginning. And that being said, maybe I'm too critical, but I have had more negative experiences with professors, especially men, than I have positive. I can name on one hand the amount of professors that I have had that I felt actually nurtured me and encouraged my creativity rather than just trying to force their own style onto me. And then, of course, in those experiences, it was just an overall negative environment and my work was not growing. I was very frustrated. I wasn't getting the critiques that I needed and I didn't see the benefits of a good critique. It took me years to understand how beneficial criticism and working with others and having a community for your art and your creativity can be, but these negative events really can derail you. Student work, when scrutinized, was seldom appreciated. Far from it, whatever its genuine accomplishments, it was viewed solely in terms of its shortfalls. Time and time again, I saw promising work met with a volley of should have dones, could have dones, and might have dones, instead of being worked with as it was. It was always what if? What if it was bigger? What if you did this instead? What if, this is a painting? Or I got this one so much my first year actually. What if this digital art that you're making was a painting? I took this course my second semester of my first year of undergrad. It was a required course. It was considered a core class that everyone had to take so that we all established kind of the same techniques and basis. And the principle of the class was to learn how to critique each other better so that going forward in your educational career, in your artistic career, you better know how to critique. We literally had a book on how to critique. Anyways, I believe the very first project I did was a photo-based project, and then I had some text over my images. We were paired with another student who had to give us, like, a challenge, and the following student was like, "Okay, well, I don't want you to do any digital work. You always do digital work." I was like, what a weird thing to say." I kinda get it, like, to get me to experiment, but at the same time, it was just petty. It was because they didn't really have a critique of how my work, like, the subject matter that I was exploring could be bettered. It was just, what if you made it in a different medium? So, I made a painting next, and then the next project I did a sculpture, and my sculpture was really good. They didn't believe that I made my sculpture, so on and so forth. The last one I did a video-based work. But, yeah, I'm no stranger to this experience. It is not my argument that the world of academia be turned into an exalted artist studio. However, my point that artists attempting to exist, grow, even flourish within that milieu recognize that the entire thrust of intellectualism runs counter to the creative impulse. for an artist to become overly cerebral. This is not to say that artists lack rigor. Rather, the artistic rigor is grounded differently than intellectual life usually admits. Artists and intellectuals are not the same animal. As a younger artist, this was very confusing to me. I myself have considerable critical gifts and have in fact won national awards for practicing them. It was to my own rue that I discovered that these same skills were misapplied when focused on embryonic, artistic endeavors, minor others. Younger artists are seedlings. Their early works resemble thicket and under are seedlings. The halls of academia, with their preference for lofty intellectual theorems, do little to support the life of the forest floor. As a teacher, Julia Cameron says, it has been my sad experience that many talented creatives were daunted early, and unfairly, by their inability to conform to a norm that was not their own. It would be my hope that the academics who read this book and apply it would do so with an altered appreciation for the authenticity of growth, for the sake of growth, in other words, as taller trees. Let us not allow our darker critical powers unfettered play upon the seedling artists in our midst. And lastly, I'll include this snippet. Often, audacity, not authentic talent, confers fame on an artist. The lack of audacity, pinched out by critical abuse or malnourished through neglect, may cripple many artists far superior to those we publicly acclaim. In order to recover our sense of hope and the courage to create, we must acknowledge and mourn the scars that are blocking us. This process may seem both painstaking and petty, but it is a necessary rite of passage. Just as the teenager must gain autonomy from an overbearing parent, so too an artist must gain autonomy from malignant artistic mentors. Especially over the course of this last year, I found myself and my friends sitting around a lot, kind of jealously, like, kind of these themes that we talked about in the previous chapters already, discussing, why aren't we having these opportunities and successes that some of the other people we know are having, but we don't feel like they put in as much effort. I don't want to say that it has anything to do with the quality of the work. It's just knowing that, they show up late all the time, or they don't respond, or they're not very kind, and yet somehow they seem to get all of the opportunities that you don't. And time again, we found ourselves admitting, it's just kind of having the audacity. It's not always confidence. I think confidence really is a fake it till you make it situation. And I've been practicing that for the last decade, but audacity certainly goes a very long way. Art is the act of structuring time. Gain, disguised as loss, is a potential artist's tool. To acquire it, simply brutally ask, how can this loss serve me? Where does it point my work? The answers will surprise and liberate you. The trick is to metabolize pain as energy. The key to doing that is to know, to trust, and to act as if a silver lining exists. If you are only willing to look at the work differently or to walk through a different door, one that you may have balked at, then the rest of this section is examples of Julia Cameron time and time again, looking back and realizing when she should have acted upon something and times where she did and how it actually paid off. Every end is a beginning, we know that, but we tend to forget it as we move through grief. Struck by a loss, we focus understandably on what we leave behind. The lost dream of the work's successful fruition and its buoyant reception. We need to focus on what lies ahead. This can be tricky. We may not know what lies ahead, and if the present hurts us badly, we tend to view the future as an impending pain. I really like the quote by C.S. Lewis that says, I sat with my anger long enough until she told me her real name was grief. I certainly find that one applicable to myself. I know that I mentioned in previous weeks that I'm trying to address and not necessarily completely relinquish, but, redirect my anger and my rage and find a way that does, some good from it rather than just dwelling in it. And a lot of the time it's just grief and it's just jealousy. And there is a way, to find a gain in this feeling of loss rather than letting it continue to spiral and build up. I actually lied. There's one more section. It's called Age and Time, Product and Process. And again, it starts with a question and answer. The question is, do you know how old I'll be by the time I learn to play the piano? And the answer is the same age you will be if you don't. I have spent far too much time feeling like I am behind, which when I say that to some people, they're like, that's insane. You're in your middle 20s, like you're so young. And I really had to change my perspective on that. I started trying to do that about a year ago when I turned 25, because coming up on 25 to me felt like really daunting. I was like, oh my God, I'm halfway to 30. What do I have to show for the first 5 years? And, what are my goals for the next 5? Because everyone's like, 30. What a daunting and overwhelming chapter to hit. But I really just changed my attitude about it. I thought about, I really I changed so much in 5 years. I can't even fathom the person that I'll become in the next 5. So, not rushing it, but just appreciating it in the moment that, the growth is gradual. I'm only missing out on the chances that I don't take, You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And as I was saying, this quote from the section fits very well. At the heart of the artistic avoidance is the denial of process. We like to focus on having learned a skill or having made an artwork. This attention to the final form ignores the fact that creativity lies not in the done, but in the doing. I am writing a screenplay is infinitely more interesting to the soul than I have written a screenplay, which pleases the ego. I am in an acting class is infinitely more interesting than I took a class a few weeks ago. In a sense, no creative act is ever finished. You can't learn to act because there is always more to learn. Arguably, you can't even direct a film because you will always be redirecting it even years later. You will know then what you might have done and what you will do next if you keep working. Far from it, this does not mean that the work accomplished was worthless. Far from it, it simply means that doing the work points the way to new and better work to be done. I won't dwell on that too much because I think I really touched on that. These paintings as an example last week that, I will be a better painter because of the time I spent on these. Will I think that these are my best works for the rest of my life? Probably not. But I have gathered a lot about my process physically and mentally and the message that I'm trying to share just from the time spent on this. I look back at many a piece in my portfolio, especially from those first years when I was just starting school, thinking each time I made a new work, this was the best thing I'd made yet, because it was. But now I look back at them and I'm like, well, that's not very good. But I needed to make it in order to make the next thing. Filling the form. What do I mean by filling the form? I mean taking the next small step instead of skipping ahead to a large one for which you may not yet be prepared. To be very specific, in order to sell a screenplay, you must first write the screenplay. In order to write one, you must first come up with an idea and then commit it to paper. A page at a time, until you have about 120 pages of script. Filling the form means that you write your daily pages. Means that when obsession strikes, as it will, about how the damn thing is not any good, you tell yourself that this is a question for later, and turn back to doing what is the next right thing. And that means you write the pages of the next day. If you break a screenplay down into daily increments, that small smattering of writing can get done quickly and promptly before the dirty laundry. And it can carry you through the rest of your day guilt-free and less anxious. I have tried to build up the habit a lot more since moving, a lot more since starting the artist way, to just nip it in the butt. Just start my list of things to do, and whatever I feel the most hesitant about is probably what I need to do first. In the very first week of the artist way, you're told when looking at the tasks and exercises for the week that it's not necessarily realistic to expect that you'll do all 10 and the additional works every single week. So what you should do is sit down, go through them, pick a few that you feel like you really want to do, that you feel comfortable with, and then pick to do the ones that you don't want to do, because there's likely something subconsciously in there that you actually need to be doing, that you're pushing yourself away from, and you need to break out of that comfort zone. Black creatives like to think that they are looking at changing their whole life in one fell swoop. This form of grandiosity is very often its own undoing. By setting the jumps too high and making the price tag too great, the recovering artist sets defeat in motion. Who can concentrate on a first drawing class when he's obsessing about having to divorce his life and leave town? Who can turn toe in a modern jazz form when she's busy reading the ads for a new apartment, since she'll have to break up with her lover in order to concentrate on her new art of jazz? I do that too. Maybe it's that perfectionist in me we discussed last week. I've talked about it with my partner a million times over the years. I think I had to be so independent for such a long time, and I am always thinking 10 steps ahead, but it's also worst case scenario. And so I'm missing out on the moment at hand, and I'm not actually committing or enjoying. And I'll find myself like 2 pages into a book or halfway through a song, and I'll be like, oh my God, I wasn't even paying attention. I wasn't even enjoying it because I was busy thinking about something else. I constantly have to pull myself back into the moment. So to improve on these, there are 2 exercises again. First is early patterning. Although we seldom connect the dots, many of our present-day losses are connected to our earlier conditioning. Children may be told they can't do anything, or equally damaging, be told they should be able to do absolutely anything with ease. Yeah, if you could imagine, I was also one of those highly gifted children that's now experiencing extreme burnout. The following questions are aimed at helping retrieve and decipher your own conditioning. Some of them may seem not to apply. Write about whatever they trigger for you. There are 20 questions here. I'm just going to rapid fire. 1, as a kid, my dad thought my art was blank, and that made me feel blank. 2, I remember one time when he blank. 3, I felt very blank and blank about that. I never forgot it. 4, as a kid, my mother taught me that my daydreaming was blank. 5, I remember she'd tell me to snap out of it by reminding me blank. 6, the person I remember who believed in me was blank. 7, I remember one time when blank. 8, I felt blank and blank about that. I never forgot it. 9, the thing that ruined my chance to be an artist was blank. 10, the negative lesson I got from that, which wasn't logical, but I still believe, is that I can't blank and be an artist. 11, when I was little, I learned that blank and blank were big sins that I particularly had to watch out for. 12, I grew up thinking artists were blank people. 13, the teacher who shipwrecked my confidence was blank. 14, I was told blank very long. 15, I believe this teacher because blank. 16, the mentor who gave me a good role model was blank. 17, when people say I have talent, I think they want to blank. 18, the thing is, I'm suspicious that blank. 19, I can't believe that blank. And 20, if I believe I'm really talented, then I'm mad as hell at blank and blank and blank and blank and blank. Then you turn this exercise around and you do affirmations. The following affirmations affirm your right to the practice of your creativity. Select 5 affirmations and work with them this week. I am a talented person. I have a right to be an artist. I am a good person and a good artist. Creativity is a blessing I accept. My creativity blesses others. My creativity is appreciated. I now treat myself with my creativity more gently. I now treat myself and my creativity more generously. I now share my creativity more openly. I now accept hope. I now act affirmatively. I now accept creative recovery. I now allow myself to heal. I now accept God's unfolding my life. I now believe God loves artists. Might scratch those last 2. And that brings us to the tasks for week 8. 1, goal search. You may find the following exercise difficult. Allow yourself to do it anyway. If multiple dreams occur to you, do the exercise for each one of them. The simple act of imagining a dream in concrete details helps us to bring it into reality. Think of your goal search as a preliminary architect's drawing for the life you would wish to have. The steps for number 1 are: name your dream. That's right, write it down. In a perfect world, I would secretly love to be a. 2, name one concrete goal that signals you to its accomplishment. On your emotional compass, this goal signifies true north. The next step is: in a perfect world, where would you like to be in 5 years in relation to your dream and your true north? Following that is: in the world we inhabit now, what action can you take this year to move you closer? What action can you take this month, this week, this day, right now? And lastly, list your dream. For example, to be a famous film director. List its true north, respect and higher consciousness, mass communication, and select a role model, whether that be Walt Disney, Ron Howard, Michael Powell. Make an action plan for 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, right now. Choose an action. Reading this book is an action. So going back, I think for me, aside from just doing this exercise, speaking it out loud and like putting it on record is an action. So I would like to be some sort of famous artist. My true north regarding fame is really just that there is some sort of legacy or record that I feel leaves an impact after I've left. I don't have too much earthly attachment. Like when I'm gone, I'm gone. I would like to think that I have affected at least one person to make some sort of change in their life, that I have influenced at least one person. In 5 years, I'd like to make enough money from my art practice to not have to do a side hustle to fund a project. I'd also like, in the next 3 years, to have a solo show. I'd like to do another artist residency or get a grant, some minor recognition in the next year. In the next week, what do I want to do? Just before this video, and it won't go out for another couple of days, I got that job I've been trying to get. And that was really my goal for this week. So I kind of feel like I've done it. So maybe it's just my goal for today. My other goal for this week and for today is to finish this video, edit my last video, um, finish I'm on the last book in the Game of Thrones series of Ice and Fire that's currently out. I'm finally on A Dance with Dragons. And so I'd like to finish those things as much as I can today, and what I don't finish today, finish by the end of the week. And okay, sorry. I also have to select a role model. I've listed Halsey before. She is a big role model for me. I don't think that she ever has to hunker herself down into a particular niche, which you're told all the time that you can't find recognition or fame or growth unless you kind of start with a small focus. I think she lets herself explore everything she wants to explore, and she's a better creative person and artist for that. The second task, because that was all just the first, is called New Childhood. What might you have been if you'd had perfect nurturing? Write a page of this fantasy childhood. What were you given? Can you repaint yourself in that direction now? I would like to just say that my partner and we talk about this, so I know that I am trying to do it for him as well. And he does feel that it's beneficial that I am achieving it to a certain extent. My partner and I nurture each other, and my friends are really like my chosen family. And I choose people who nurture me, and I try to nurture them back. And so I am actively working on what I feel I did not get in my childhood to create that life for myself now. And I have a really great support system for that. That's really the key that I needed. Third is color schemes. Pick a color and write a quick few sentences describing yourself in the first person. I am silver, high tech, ethereal, the color of dreams and accomplishment, the color of half life, and in between, I feel serene. Now, what is your favorite color? What do you have that is that color? And what about an entire room? This is your life in your house. It actually came up during one of the previous videos, but my favorite color is gray because it's calm. And my entire house is different shades of gray and black and white. But I have been really embracing like a maroon, wine, burgundy kind of shade and like a deep purple, which is my gemstone. And also my partners were both garnets. And it kind of feels full circle that I'm finally embracing it. When I was little, I hated it. I thought it was like the nastiest, ugliest, worst gemstone there was. And now I'm like, oh, no, that really resonates. That really is who I am. So I've been incorporating that color more. Number 4, list 5 things you're not allowed to do. Kill your boss, scream in church, go outside naked, make a scene, quit your job. Now do that thing on paper, write it, draw it, paint it, act it out, collage it. Then put some music on and dance to it. By the time this video goes up, I will have acted on it and I will have sent in my resignation, which is a bit nerve-wracking, but I'm also very excited about it. 5, style search. List 20 things you would like to do, perhaps the same 20 you listed before and perhaps not, and then answer these questions for each item. Does it cost money or is it free? Expensive or cheap? Alone or with somebody? Job-related? Physical risk? Fast-paced or slow? And mind, body, or spiritual. 6 is an ideal day. Plan a perfect day in your life as it is now constituted using the information gleaned from your above 20. 7 is the ideal deal day. Plan a perfect day in your life as you wish it were constituted. There are no restrictions. Allow yourself to be and to have whatever your heart desires. Your ideal environment, job, home, circle of friends, intimate relationships, stature in your art form, your wildest dreams. And rather than the usual 10, the last task is actually number 8. This is to choose one festive aspect from your ideal day. Allow yourself to live it. You may not be able to move to Rome yet, but even in a still grungy apartment, you can enjoy a homemade cappuccino and a croissant. For my ideal day, we went on a small weekend trip to Taos. We hadn't been to Taos yet. We car camped. We walked around all day without an itinerary and just kind of let things happen. And we went on a hike and the weather was perfect. And then we actually came home early because I missed my cat and my ideal day was coming home and being with Juno. We've made it to the check-in. First, how many days this week did you do your morning pages? Have you been very tempted to abandon them, and how is the experience for you? I have been very tempted to abandon them. Not like I'm going to stick with them for the 12 weeks, but I did not do them every day this last week. I didn't even do my Duolingo every day this last week. I think it's just really hard to keep up the pace. It's been 8 weeks, but I also know that I'm not a person for doing anything daily. Second, Did you do your artist date this week? Have you been allowing workaholism and other commitments to sabotage this practice? What did you do? How did it feel? Like you said, I went to Taos and we would split up and explore different sections of bookshops. We went to a chocolate shop. We went to get brunch. We went to a museum. We kind of meandered. I got some new rings I'm really excited about. We went on a hike. And I've just been trying to carve out as much time to read as possible. Third, did you experience any synchronicity this week? What was it? I need to start writing it down as it happens throughout the week. I'm having a lot of synchronicity. Fourth and final, were there any issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Describe them. I'm kind of drawing a blank if I'm being honest. I've definitely had like frustrations here and there day to day, but I also think I'm doing a better job at just not letting myself get too hung up on things. Somehow there are only 4 more videos. We have week 9, week 10, 11, and 12. I'm starting week 9 right now. I'm already really excited about it. And by the time we wrap up, I should be able to varnish these and actually show you what the finished paintings look like. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of full circle to have something to show for this. I also only have 2 more weeks of my marketing certificate before that's done. And right around that time, I'll start my new job. There's definitely still a lot more coming, but it's kind of crazy to think how much has changed already. I'm very glad that I finally sat down to do this. All of my friends will be getting a copy and a journal for gifts this year. I hope I see you next week. But if I don't, either way, thanks for watching this week.